Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome everybody to today's session on using the suitability form in the long-term care sale. I'll tell you what, this is really a great course because this is, even though it's a short one, it's really the guts of the long-term care sale. When we look at long-term care insurance, we're out there and we're selling the policy. One of the first things we have to remember is that people don't satisfy their needs in order of importance. They satisfy their desires in order of importance. And these desires are unique to each and every individual out there. So when we're out there talking to people, we have to realize that it doesn't really matter what we think they need. What matters is what they think they want. That's the key to selling any type of insurance, but especially long-term care insurance. So our job is to find their desires. We want to listen carefully to what they're really saying out there so that they can tell us what they really want, what's important to them, how do they feel about cost versus quality out there, how do they feel about insurance as a whole. And the best way to do that, of course, is to ask questions, okay, and to figure out how to find out what they're going to tell us that's going to help us make the sale. So I use the suitability form. It's a form we designed and put into the sales concept about, I guess, the year 2000. And we put this in there basically to help agents just kind of remember what they should be asking prior to the presentation to make sure they're going to give the best presentation they can. The suitability form gives us follow-up questions. It gets them talking about issues. Make good notes on it so you can jog your memory, not just today, but in the future. And make sure that you have a good tickler file set up so you don't pass up long-term sales here as we're talking to people. So let's take a look at the suitability form. If you look at the front page of it, you can order this form right from our supply department, or you can download it at LTC Agent Sales Tools. If you look at the first few questions on here, you can see that you can really break this form into parts. The first question, are you eligible for Medicare Part A or B? Now, remember, you got to be talking to a senior to ask that. Otherwise, ask them about their health insurance, okay? But if you're working with seniors, it's, are you eligible for Medicare Part A or B? Yeah. Did you enroll when you were 65? Yeah, great. What company do you have your Medicare supplement with? What plan do you have? What price are you paying? What I'm looking here is for a couple different things. First of all, when I say, did you enroll when you were age 65? What am I looking for there? Yeah, you're right if you said potential disability. If they say, no, I didn't enroll when I was 65, I enrolled when I was 59, we better start asking questions and find out why, right? If I find out their company, their plan, I'm looking for a potential advantage lead or a cost plan lead or a Medicare supplement lead. Then I'm going to ask the questions, you know what, you both look pretty healthy to me, but let me just find out a quick medical history. Dad, when's the last time you were in the hospital? Oh, a year ago, huh? What'd you have a year ago? You had a heart attack. Did you come through it fine? Any residual damage? No? Okay, great. When's the time before that you were in the hospital? Remember, you want to go back at least 5 years, okay? Because if I don't go back 5 years, my problem is he might tell me about that heart attack, which is fine, but he didn't tell me about the stroke he had 3 years ago. So I want to go back at least 5 years and get an idea of what their hospitalizations were. Then I want to pivot and say there's some things that I can't find out by the hospital. I need drugs for them. So what prescription drugs are you guys taking? All I'm going to do during this category is find out, do I have any trouble drugs on there that might mean a decline here? Or do I have somebody that's had their drugs adjusted in the last while? So if Dad says, well, I take Lipitor, great, okay. Has your doctor changed your meds in the last 3 to 6 months? No? Great. Then I'll move on. Okay? I want to go back a good, strong 5 years here, and I want to figure out, number one, do I have a prospect for long-term care? Long-term care is my lead product. It's the product I'm going to use all the time if I can. So that's the first thing I'm looking for. If I do have a prospect, what company am I going to look for this client? Okay. If I don't have a prospect for long-term care, do I have a prospect for critical care? Okay. So I want to find out right away, where's my sale direction going to go here? But I'm not going to do anything here. I'm going to keep asking the questions. The next question is existing insurance coverage. Now, there's a couple different reasons that we use these questions. First of all, the first question is kind of a buffer question, okay? but it also gives me potential premium dollars here. So I'm going to say, do you have any other health insurance? Do you ever buy cancer insurance or anything like that? No? Okay. Then my next question is going to be, who do you have your long-term care insurance with? Notice that I said, do you have any other health insurance? But now I'm saying, who do you have your long-term care insurance with? Because what I want to do is figure out here, if they don't have long-term care, how come? So if they come to me and they say, well, we don't have long-term care insurance, I'm going to say, most time by the time people reach your age, they've already at least looked at coverage. Have you ever looked at long-term care? Yeah? Who are you looking at? Well, we had an agent out here a year ago. Well, what company was that agent with? Genworth. Well, Genworth is a pretty good company. Why didn't you buy? Well, it was way too expensive. Oh, really? How much did that agent say it was going to be? Well, he said it was going to be $400 a month. Well, I just learned something, didn't I? What did I learn? Don't throw a $400 premium at this client, or I might not be making a sale either, right? So what I learned is roughly what kind of feeling they had about long-term care. I'll tell you how important this is. I was out with one of my agents. We were out selling south of Minneapolis, and we pulled up to this farmstead. It's a nice little farm, okay? Walked in there. Mom and Dad were sitting there. Mom and Dad were in their early 60s, and they were getting ready to sell the farm. And they started out talking about, can you help us invest the money after we sell the farm, etc. But my agent that I was with, he started using the Suitability, and he came down to this question. He said, yeah, most time, by the time people are your age, they've at least looked at the coverage. Have you guys looked at long-term care? Oh, yeah, we've had 3 or 4 agents out here. Howard goes, really? When's the last agent that was out here? Oh, I don't know, about a month ago we had an agent out here. Well, what company was that agent with? Oh, my daughter's the postmaster down in this little town, and he was talking to us about the federal plan. So Howard goes, well, the federal plan's not that bad a plan. How come you didn't buy it? He goes, well, if you buy this long-term care insurance, you have to pay premiums the rest of your life. And Howard looks at him and he goes, what do you mean? Well, he said, my wife's mother is 96 years old. If we bought that insurance now, we might have to pay premiums till we're 96. And Howard said, okay, is there any reason other than that you wouldn't buy the coverage? No. So he turns to the wife and he says, Dana, how about you? She goes, well, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to have to pay those premiums for so long. So Howard looks across the table and he says, if I could show you guys a way that you could pay this up in 20 years, would that be something that would interest you? The guy goes, well, yeah, that's what our life insurance agent does. And I swear to God, we walked out of there 45 minutes later with 2 applications in his briefcase, and he had a check in hand for over $6,000. And as we were driving down the driveway away from that house, I looked at him and I said, can you imagine having 3 to 4 agents out here prior to this, and not one of them picked up that this was his objection? You know what? That's what we talk about. We talk about asking questions, okay? You'd be amazed at how many times it's something so simple that's keeping somebody from buying coverage out there. So I want to figure out, what are their feelings about long-term care insurance? Where are they coming from? If they go, no, I'd never buy that coverage, it's a ripoff. I'm going to go, really? Why do you feel that? Okay? I, in other words, want to figure out what are their concepts that have in their mind. Then I'm going to ask them, you guys have life insurance? Dad, who do you have your life insurance with? Okay? Now, what I'm looking in the life insurance and the burial and pre-range is I'm looking for a pivot here. Do I have a pivot to a final expense sale, or do I have premium dollars that I might not be aware of? And I'll talk about that a little bit farther on. So in the existing coverage, I'm basically looking at a few things, but my main concept is, how do they feel about long-term care insurance? Then the last 4 questions on the suitability front page is, do you know anybody that's been in a nursing home for an extended period of time? Yeah? Who is that? Your worst nightmare with this first question is if you ask somebody, do you know anybody that's been in a nursing home for an extended period of time? And they look at you and go, no. You go, gee, you never had a family member, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa that was in a nursing home? No. You ever know any friends or relatives or neighbors that have went in the nursing home? Nope. You go to church on Sunday? Yeah. You ever look in the bulletin, you see that little box that says pray for so-and-so? You ever recognize any of those names? Nope. You know right there, you got a tough sale here. Because we know that 95% of those people aren't going to buy coverage. If you run into somebody who has never, ever been exposed to a long-term care situation, it's real hard for them to see the need for long-term care insurance. If the person says yes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a little bit here. Who was it that went in the nursing home? Your mom, huh? Oh, how long was she in there? Oh, she was in there for 12 years. Really? What'd she go in there for? Well, you know, she had a stroke. It was a little one, but we put her in there, and she kind of really went downhill from there. But, boy, she was healthy. She stayed alive a long time. You know, did she pay her own way? Yeah. Did she end up paying her way the whole time? No, actually, they spent through all the money from the farm, their apartment building in town, and they lost their house, and she died 3 months after she ran out of money. I'll tell you what, if you ever hear a story like that, and you don't make that sale, when you walk out to your car, slap yourself, get in the car and drive down the block a little bit and beat yourself up because you got a real flaw in your presentation if you don't close a client like that. Anybody who's had an experience like that with long-term care, we know that 95% of them are going to buy coverage. So first thing I want to know is find out, do they know anybody that's been in there for an extended period? Then I'm going to ask them, if you guys need long-term care tomorrow, what would you do? You know, what's funny is a lot of times they'll sit there and they'll think about this, and all of a sudden one of them will go, well, I guess we'd have to pay our own way. And they go, well, you pay your own way where? Well, in the nursing home. I go, oh, really? You know, when I ask the question, if you need long-term care tomorrow, what would you do? What I'm really looking for is, if you had a choice, would you rather go into that nursing home or would you rather stay home? In other words, what I'm doing here is I'm going to lightly cover the 3 reasons people buy long-term care. I'm going to cover asset protection. I'm going to cover whether they want to go into a nursing home or stay home. And I'm going to cover whether they want to burden their children or not. Okay, what I'm looking for here is what's their hot button. Of the 3 of them, which one are they going to click in? I have to tell you something. I could make the entire sale just off of these 4 questions right here. But again, I'm just looking to get into the presentation. Once I reach the end of this page, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, here's the deal. Okay, right now, I should stop one thing and say, you got to recognize you might run into a cross-sell right away here. Sometimes you're going to reach that 3rd question down there and you're going to say, have you ever discussed long-term care with your kids? And you're going to be out there with mom, and mom's going to turn to you and go, well, yeah, my daughter actually has built a widow's apartment down the basement, and I'm going to live there when I get older. Now, I'll tell you what, if you run into somebody that says that, you want to know that right now, right? I don't want to learn that at the end of the presentation. I could go through my entire presentation, she in her mind's thinking, who cares? My daughter's going to take care of me. So if somebody has already made that decision in their mind, I want to learn about it right now. I was up in Park Rapids one time, and I asked this question, and the lady looks at me and she goes, yeah, I'm going to move in with my daughter when I get old, and she's going to take care of me. And I said, okay, have you already talked to your daughter about this? Oh, yeah. Yep, we've talked about it. We've made the decision. That's what we're going to do. Now, I knew her daughter worked down at the local bank. So I looked at her and I said, you know what? If you could, let's just say you were rich, okay, and you had all the money in the world, would you still ask your daughter to take care of you, or would you hire your own help? She looked at me and she goes, well, I'd hire my own help. I said, okay, so what you're really telling me is this is kind of an economic decision. If I could show you a way that you could have the money, that you could hire your own help and not have to burden your daughter, would you rather do that? Now, normally what I'm looking for is somebody to say, well, yes, and then I'm going to continue in the sale. But she looks at me and she goes, no, I'd probably still move in with my daughter. I said, okay. Then let me ask you one last question. If I could show you a way that you could pay her more money than she currently makes at her job to take care of you. Would you be interested in that? She looked at me and she goes, well, yeah. So I'll tell you what, I didn't even bother with the presentation. I went right into MedAmerica, and I showed her a cash plan that paid $3,000 a month. Because I knew $3,000 a month, was about what her daughter makes. And I show her the plan, and I said, what do you think about that? She looked at me and she goes, well, how much would $4,000 a month cost? And I said, well, $3,000 I think is probably more than what she makes. Oh, I know that. But if I paid her $4,000 a month, she'd take really good care of me. And I chuckled, quoted her a $4,000 a month plan. She actually bought a $3,600 a month plan, and we all went home happy. You know what? That's what you call finding out what's in their mind and helping them accomplish what they want to accomplish. I always have to remember to tell new agents that start selling long-term care that it doesn't matter what you think they should do. What matters is what they think they should do. And your job is to help them accomplish what they want to accomplish. In her case, paying her daughter more money than she normally made, so she thought she was going to get better care, was her idea of what she wanted to accomplish, and she was happy as a lark, and she still has that plan today. So you know what? As we go through here, we have to remember, sometimes you're going to hit something that's hot enough, you're going to move right away. By the way, I love that way to handle. The kids get involvement here because it works so well. I stole this from Mikey Johnson down in Indiana. We were out there the first time he used this clothes. I just loved it. Think about what he does. He says, if you discuss long-term care with your kids and they come back and say, well, yeah, my daughter's going to take care of me. Right away, he comes back and goes, oh, okay, I can understand that. Let me ask you a question. If you were rich and you could afford to hire your own help and you didn't have to ask her, would you hire your own help or would you still ask her? Now, most people are going to come back and say, well, I'd hire help. Then right away he goes, so what you're telling me is that's an economic decision. Let me ask you a question. If I could show you a way that you could have enough money to hire your own help and you didn't have to burden her, she'd still help, of course, but you wouldn't be forcing her to help, is that something you'd be interested in? And I was amazed at that person. I just looked and said, yeah, I'd really be interested in that. And right away, he diffused the issue of the kids taking care of him and continued on in the sales process. Then you use that little pivot I just made. If they say they still want their kids to take care of them, pivot to a cash plan, show them that. You'd be amazed at how easy that sale could be. Once I get done with these questions, I'm going to look at the client and I'm going to say, based on the answers to your questions, I think long-term care is something that you should take a look at. Would you mind if we continue? And I'd start into my presentation. If I found that they didn't qualify for long-term care, I'd say, you know what, based on the answers you gave me right here, the problem is that I don't think I can get you covered for long-term care insurance. However, I do have a good alternative that I think would fit you perfectly. Would you mind if I continue? And I'm going to pivot into a critical care. If I don't think I have a critical care or that, I'm just going to pivot into the final expense or whatever product I want. Okay. If I continue on with long-term care insurance, I'm going to continue in the first 3 slides of the presentation until I reach the slide in the presentation that says, do you need coverage? And then I'm going to say, now in order for me to do this, I need to ask you a few more questions, and I'm going to turn to the state suitability page. And I'm going to say, now here's the deal. The state requires that before I even talk to you about long-term care insurance, I determine if this product is suitable to you. So I need to ask you a couple more questions. Do you still own the house here? Yeah. If you had to liquidate this house tomorrow, roughly how much do you think you could get for it? Okay. Do you own any other business property, lakeshore, farmland, or anything? No? Okay, great. You know what? I'm sure you guys both get Social Security now. Dad, how much do you get per month? And I'm going to start filling out the suitability form. Now, the suitability form is designed to make this very simple for you. You ask about the house, how much it's worth. Well, who's not going to tell you that? I could look around and guess what the house is worth. Then I'm going to ask about other business property, lakeshore, farmland. If they own some of that, they're going to be proud of it. They'll be proud to tell me. Then I get into the guts of it when I start asking the income questions and get into this. I like to know these answers before I go farther in the sale because it's going to help me determine a lot of things in the sales process. But I'm going to make sure that I ask some of these questions very carefully. When I get done with the Social Security and the pension question, I'm going to say, you know what? I hope you got a whole bunch of money sitting out there in CDs. Let me ask you a question. Do you live on the interest or do you just let it grow? Now, you know what they're telling you right away? Is they're telling you whether they have CD money or they don't. The second thing they're telling you is if they say, well, we're living on the interest, then I kind of want to ask a few more questions because I might have a client here that might be a little bit stretched financially here, and I want to make sure they've got sufficient income and assets to buy coverage. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to be cautious of is the CD question. The next thing I'm going to do is when I actually get down to the CD area, I'm going to make sure that I ask them questions about their interest. A lot of my clients are really complaining about the interest. You doing the same thing right now? Oh, yeah. What percentage is yours coming due right? Just get an idea of what they think are occurring with interest rates. When I get down into the retirement income, I'm going to do the same thing. Are you drawing money from your retirement plans already, or are you just letting them grow? Okay, if they say they're letting it grow and they're over age 69, actually if they're over age 59, I got potential premium dollars here, right? So what I'm doing is I'm digging in a little bit. I'm finding out what their financial situation is. I want to know, do I have a prospect for long-term care insurance here? I want to know how much premium I should recommend, and I want to know how to fund those premiums. These are three very important keys. A lot of agents, they skim over the suitability area, and when they skim over it, they forget that they're really losing the ability to tell what this client needs. Today when we look at suitability itself as a whole, realize partnership has changed this area a lot. It used to be that we'd look at a client that had $50,000 of assets over and above the house, and we'd even question whether we should continue in a sale. Well, today with partnership, that's a no-brainer. Of course you continue in a sale. Today I might even continue in a sale with somebody that's got 25 grand over the house. Why? Because partnership allows them to choose the amount of protection they want. If they only need 50 grand of coverage, I'm just going to sell them 50 grand of coverage. The second thing I want to do here is determine my premium. Always remember the rule of thumb in your mind is I take 1.5% of my client's assets, 7% of my client's income, and those are kind of my bookends. I want to make sure my premium falls somewhere in between these two numbers. There are some exceptions. If I got a client that's over the age of 75, I might go up to 2% of assets because I know that they're at the risk factor where they're going to need care pretty shortly here. Vice versa, if I got a client that's very young, but they have a growing portfolio, I might disregard the asset and income and kind of use my own judgment here in how much premium I think they could afford. But the real reason I want to know all this information is because sometimes we get fooled when we're selling long-term care insurance. A lot of agents, they go out there and they find out a client has $3,500 a month of income. And they assume in their mind, if they quote a $300 premium, that the decision is $300 versus $3,500. And they're not taking into account the fact that the client has funds that are committed already. If my client's got $3,500 of income, but he's already committing $2,700 to expenses, that means he actually has $800 that's disposable income. That's his buffer, I call it. So the decision isn't, am I going to spend $350 versus $3,500? It's, am I going to spend $350 versus the $8,000? And let me tell you something. If mom is going to the casino every week and she's blowing a couple $100 a week at the casino, her decision just became, am I going to buy long-term care insurance or am I going to go to the casino? And I'll tell you what, if you're making a decision between these two, which one do you think is going to win? You're right. They're going to end up going to that casino every day of the week. The bottom line is that what we have to do is find a way that they can buy this coverage without changing their lifestyle. If I can figure out a way to have them fund these premiums that won't involve their dollars that are in their buffer each month, then it's going to be a lot easier sale for me to make. So the suitability, probably the biggest strength of the suitability, comes from this slide right here. That ability for agents to find a way to fund that premium, which means that the decision becomes easier in the client's mind, and it's easier for the client to make that decision. Yeah, let's go ahead and get this coverage. So remember that the suitability form is important, real important, just for this reason right here. And there are times that you're going to find when you're using the suitability form that I don't even need to go to the presentation. There are times I'm going to find that I can actually make a sale by pivoting real quickly. One of the areas to look at is when you hit this question right here, and I'm going, how much is your house worth? The answer, and then I say, do you have any other property, lakeshore, farmland, or anything? And they turn to me and go, well, we got a cabin up north. Whenever somebody says that, I automatically go, how long ago did you buy that? Oh, man, we bought that back in the 1950s. And I look and laugh and go, bet that's one of the best investments you ever made in your life. Oh, my Lord, I'll tell you what. We bought that property for $5,000. And I had it appraised the other day. It was worth $200,000, you know. I mean, property, lakeshore up north has just gone nuts, you know. And if they have a situation like that, the question I'm going to ask is, do your kids and your grandkids spend a lot of time out there? Oh, yeah. You know, my kids grew up on that property, and I'll tell you what, they bring the grandkids up there all the time. You know what? Everything else in their life might be irrelevant, but that lakeshore is one of their highest priorities they have in life. If you get a family that they have been going to that lake property every year, their kids went there, their grandkids went there, you know what? They might not care about anything else, but they want to protect that property. And I could pivot almost immediately and start talking about that angle. And I'll tell you what, make a long-term care sale from it. The second thing that you have to look for here is a big spread in the income. Let's say you're doing a suitability and you hit the Social Security and Dad goes, I got $1,100, Mom's got $800. Then all of a sudden, okay, they hit the pension and Dad's got $2,600 of pension coming in. Now, when I see a situation like that, all of a sudden, I'm going to jump. Let's use the two numbers off to the right. Let's say that we find out that Dad's got $5,500 coming in and Mom's got $1,200. Now, I'm going to go to the annuity or my Medicaid calculator immediately. I'm going to plug in their information, and the main things I'm going to plug in is their income over here. I'm going to show Dad with this $5,500 and Mom with $1,200. And I'm going to say, here's the deal. You guys have got such a big problem right now, I'm not even going to bother to give you a presentation. Because here's your worst nightmare, Mom. Your worst nightmare is all of a sudden that he's going to get sick and he's going to need long-term care. Because if you go in there and you spend down your assets and all of a sudden you reach that point where you have to apply for Medicaid. When you go apply for Medicaid, let me tell you what's going to happen. They're going to do what's called an income calculation. And in the income calculation, you can see up here, they're going to lay your guys' incomes out side by side. Then they're going to tell you, Mom, here's the deal, Mom. You don't have to spend any of your money on Dad and long-term care. But we're going to make sure that you at least have what they call the monthly maintenance income allowance, which right now is $1,839. So if you have to, they're going to take money from Dad's income, move it over to you to get you up to that $1,839. See where I did that right here? Now, Dad, they're going to tell you, you can have $89. That's the state of Minnesota right now. Then they're going to say, okay, Mom, here's how you're going to play the game. Each month when you get all this income in, you keep $1,839. You put $89 into Dad's nursing home account, and you write a check to the nursing home for $4,772 every month. Now, I'll tell you what, all you have to do is look across the table and say, Mom, could you live on $1,839 a month? You know what? That tells the whole story of long-term care to this couple right there. You know, I'm in a situation like that. My wife worked beside me our entire career. Okay? But whose name is all of our income coming in? Mine. If all of a sudden I end up needing care and my wife is forced down to $1,839 a month, let me tell you something, she'd have a heart attack. Okay? Because she couldn't live on that. She's used to living on a lot more income than that. So when you have a couple that you have one of them that makes a very high income compared to the rest of them, all you have to do is pivot right here and show them this. And I'll tell you what, all of a sudden that's going to change the whole ball game in their mind. Okay? Another area you want to look at is right here on the suitability. Now, I filled this out. The client's got 80 grand in CDs, mutual funds, 67, 13,000 annuity. Questions I'm going to ask you real quick is, where's the potential future sale here? What questions would you ask about that mutual fund right now? And where's the immediate sales potential? Okay, think you got the answers in your mind? Let's go on and see what it are. The first thing I'm going to do is look at the future sale here. November, I'm going to definitely have a letter ready to go out there and talk to them about the CD coming due. Okay, they think it's coming due. They think they're going to get 3% interest. I'm going to talk to them about an annuity with a bonus, okay, and maybe turn them on to an annuity at that point in time. What I could do right now is I could look at their current annuity. Their current annuity, how old is it? Okay, is it possible that I could replace it right now with an indexed or a fixed annuity that would do a better job for them? As far as the mutual fund, I'm just going to ask a simple question. How's it been doing for you? I was laughing. I was out at the house one day and I looked at the guy. He had 60 grand in a mutual fund. And I said, how's it been doing for you? He said, well, I'll tell you what. I went with this hotshot financial planner that moved into town a year ago. And so far he's shown me how to take $100,000 and turn it into $60,000. And I felt like chuckling. But, well, I'll tell you what. Right there, I knew he was at a spot. The spot he was in was, what does he do right now? Does he take the money out of the market and put it back in a CD? Well, he can't hardly do that. He's down 40 grand already. If he does that, all of a sudden he's looking at the fact it's going to take him forever to dig himself out of that hole. Does he leave it in the market and take the risk? It's going to keep going down farther. You know what might be the best thing for him is to learn about the concept that zero is hero. And to learn maybe his best bet is to take this and look at an indexed annuity where he can share in the gain but not have to take any of the losses. You know what? Any of those three could possibly present a sales opportunity to me right away that day. So the suitability form does a whole lot for you more than just helping you in the long-term care sale. It gives you a lot of sales opportunities right off the bat. You know, you see mom and dad and they're ready to retire and they've got two big whole life policies out there that they're still paying for. The amount of the premium here tells you that they've had these policies in force for a long time. So you got to ask the questions, you know. Do you still need that coverage? Maybe you can replace this with final expense and free up some dollars for them. Okay? Do you have potentially here the fact they could put this in automatic premium loan? Or we could move the money to an NGL trust, okay, and put them in a spot where they wouldn't lose it to Medicaid, etc. The bottom line is we still got a whole lot of room for sales that we can make here over and above the long-term care sale. So make sure you remember, use questions. Use questions, find out what they're looking for, and remember one thing before I let you go here today, and that is if you're out in the field selling long-term care today and you don't have critical care, pick up the phone and call up GoldenCare today and get a contract with critical care. If you're in long-term care insurance today, this is a product you've got to have. You know, the big thing is it's a product that's a great alternative to long-term care insurance. Actually, based on the structure of the plan, it's going to pay more claims in a normal situation than a long-term care policy will pay. But more important, we'll issue the policy. Right now, that 98% isn't true anymore. I think we're at about 96% right now that are LTC declines that are being issued. And that 3 days isn't accurate anymore just because we're flooding the company with a lot of apps right now. So expect that it's going to take longer than 3 days. But I'll tell you what, this product is so easy to explain. It's so easy to sell. You can't afford to not have it in your portfolio. So do me a favor, pick up the phone, call GoldenCare, and get a contract if you don't already have one. Other than that, I want to thank you all very much for attending today's presentation on the suitability form. I hope you got something out of it. For a PDF of today's slides, you can go to the LTC Agent Sales Tools. For our upcoming webinars, go to GoldenCare Agent, or for our recorded webinars, go to GoldenCare Training. Well, I want to thank you all very much for coming in. This is Mark Randall saying goodbye. I hope you all have a great week and a great 2013. Bye-bye, everybody.